There's a very specific kind of lie hidden in state archives. I'm looking at it right now from a motor lodge just outside of Boston. On the left side of my desk, the 1878 blueprints for the Danvers State Hospital, a facility the government proudly advertised as a compassionate sanctuary. On the right side, the 2005 luxury real estate deeds for the exact same plot of land. Reconciling these two stacks of paper doesn't require a medical degree. It just requires following the money back to the year the doors opened, 1878. The state of Massachusetts builds a massive Gothic fortress on a hill. It was designed under the Kirkbride plan, a medical theory that claimed the architecture itself could cure mental illness. Sunlight, fresh air, sweeping hilltop views. It was built to house exactly 500 of the state's most vulnerable citizens. A very elegant excuse to funnel millions in taxpayer dollars to state contractors. Because when reviewing the surgical logs and the government oversight committees of the 1930s, the sanctuary becomes an assembly line. By 1939, they had crammed over 2,300 people inside those brick walls. And here is the reality of the Massachusetts Board of Health. They didn't penalize the hospital for overcrowding. They praised the chief superintendent for his efficiency. They rewarded the hospital with more state funding to handle the volume. To process that massive inventory, the state pushed the transorbital lobotomy, driving a steel ice pick through the bone of the eye socket. They performed dozens in a single afternoon. Physics and medical science dictate that you cannot safely anesthetize, operate on, and stabilize 40 different human brains in a 6-hour shift. Not unless you are skipping the anesthesia, and not unless you don't care if the patient wakes up. The real math isn't in the hospital wing, it's out back. When you pull the topographical maps of the cemetery, you find 770 grave markers, just cheap, unmarked concrete blocks sinking into the mud. The state didn't give these people names. They gave them numbers. The state wasn't funding a hospital. They were subsidizing a grave-producing care center. And what makes this truly chilling is that all that extra government funding meant the executives had an exit plan when the public started asking questions. When whistleblowers and journalists started finding those numbered graves in the 1940s, the state didn't apologize. They just traded the ice pick for a $1 billion pill. They introduced Thorazine. They replaced the physical surgeries with chemical lobotomies, emptied the wards, and let the Gothic fortress rot until they finally locked the doors in 1992. But the final insult is what they did with the dirt. The state bulldozed the hospital and sold the land to private developers. Today, a massive luxury apartment complex sits directly on top of the old asylum footprint. They didn't cure anyone. They just buried the evidence under a luxury swimming pool. If you want to know what historic lies they're hiding in your state next, hit that subscribe button. That way, you'll know where to find me. And I want to hear from you in the comments. When a developer builds high-end apartments over a 19th century psychiatric ward, do you think they disclose those 770 graves in the lease agreement? Drop your thoughts below.